Hello, Troy Francis, joined by Dr. Silk here in Warsaw. And what we want to talk about now is being yourself, because this concept of being yourself, it obviously gets bandied around a lot. It's very typical mainstream dating advice. How am I going to get her to like me? Just be yourself. It's the kind of thing your grandmother might tell you, okay? But it's been much maligned in the dating community because, well, we'll talk about the reasons why. But also, in connection with this, there was a movement in the last 10, 15 years of so-called natural game. And natural game was effectively just like being yourself. You know, you walk up, you see the girl, you walk up. I'm not going to learn any structure, I'm not going to learn any techniques, I'm not going to learn any of these lines because it's all bogus and we don't like that. We want to try and be authentic, so I'm just going to walk up and be myself. The difficulty is, though, for a lot of guys, without having some sort of framework behind it, being themselves just doesn't really amount to anything. But Michael, you've been working with a lot of clients now, and you're literally changing these guys' lives by enabling them to be themselves, but to be a better version of themselves. So can you explain a little bit about what you think being yourself means in the context of dating and how what you teach is different to what other people have been teaching in the past?
Well, what I can say a little bit is like when people are saying that you just going to be yourself, but a better version of yourself, that doesn't mean to stack up a lot of routines in order to deliver the routines in the best possible manner. That is not being yourself. So what I've been doing is we are taking the cutting edge communication theory from the communication faculty academically and applied it into the real world scene in dating. And what I have been seeing and the way I've been teaching my students, our students as well, is that the key point in order to optimize the way of actually attracting beautiful women, to create a connection with beautiful women, is to be more and genuine yourself than ever before. Right. It's not about like creating a bunch of funny routines where you are going to demonstrate a certain amount of attraction switches, as they call it before in the old days, or the national game of just doing whatever you feel like doing, whatever comes up in your mind, you're just doing it in terms of having complete freedom. I mean, a lot of guys don't really resonate with that.
Because, well, case in point, and obviously not mentioning any names, but we've taught students recently in the last few months where it's fine to say, okay, maximum social freedom, just go out there, just do whatever, don't worry about if she rejects you, don't worry about what the people around you think, just be socially free, go for it, and it'll all fall into place. But and that advice, maybe it does work for some people who are, you know, quite extroverted or who can become extroverted, right? I mean, it kind of worked for me in the sense that through a lot of trial and error, I found a style that worked for me. But there are guys that, for them, it's too big a mountain to climb. They're not just going to run out and start doing whatever and just hoping that it falls into place, because they're too introverted. They've got too many barriers around them to actually be able to make that work in practice.
Absolutely, and the majority of my clients is guys that want to be quite subtled into that field. They want to go subtled to the girl they're attracted to and open up, but they don't want to make like a big circus out of it. And the truth is like if you don't have a framework of being truly yourself, it's very hard to actually keep the conversation going in the way that actually creates connection, basically. Yes. Because that is a skill that has to be learned with intent.
And this is the key thing, isn't it, really, that we keep hammering home here. It's creating connection. That's the important bit, right? And that's more important than, arguably, than looks, even than status and all of these different things that guys bang on about.
According to the leading scientific field in this subject, yes. Absolutely right. And what we are doing and everything that I have been, learned, I can see definitely that, the scientific-based data, taking it from the theory and making it into practice is really the way to go. And I can definitely see how that affects my students as well. I mean, many of them just change the perspective of their life, basically. And the good thing of all is that they are being more genuine themselves than ever before.
Right. So this isn't about, as it may have seemed like in the old days, right, learn these new lines, almost learn this new persona. It's actually about becoming yourself, but in a way that is attractive, but more importantly than that, in a way that creates connection with other human beings. And that seems to be the missing thing, because I know from the stuff that you teach, when you look at it, you think a lot of these guys go into a date or they go into an approach situation and they're not really, they're sort of reeling off some lines, they're reeling off some things that they've read on the internet or they've seen in a video, but they're not really creating a genuine connection, and that's why often that they get rejected.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen over and over again, and I can see that the key point is that why they're not creating a connection with the girl is because they just can't be genuine themselves, like truly themselves. And being truly themselves, what does that actually mean? It means more about who do you actually want it to be within yourself. And just to make, just to give some what can I say, some piece of the cake, some content, piece of the cake of it, is that in order to learn to be genuinely interested towards another person takes time and it takes effort, but that is what creates connection. And in order to learn that, you have to, it have to be learned with intent, with the right material.
But do you think as well, it's just that guys just aren't aware of, it's like you don't know what you don't know. Guys just aren't even aware of what they should be doing in the first place, let alone having to then learn it.
Yeah, but I mean, you're right about that one, because I mean, according to the other scientific papers and the conclusion of the scientific paper that was involved of creating connection with another person is that this is a skill that have to be learned with intent, because our brain are not wired to have that kind of skills. So we have a lot of surface-based skills. We can acknowledge things that we hear, but we can't really apply the technical part of creating a connection with someone without actually have been learned to do so with intent.
Yeah.
And that was the conclusion made by Harvard University. They made that conclusion when it comes to the best possible way in order to create a connection with other person, which is the keystone of later on create a relationship with someone.
Yes.
And that relationship can be short-term, mid-term, long-term, but still a connection needs to be established.
Even a one-night stand, even just a one-off kind of thing, that still counts in this context.
Definitely. And one thing that I also want to point out is that we are not going for the exception of the rule. We are actually going for the rule when it comes to human nature principles.
Yes, very important.
Scientifically, yeah.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Well, look, if you're curious about this method and you want to work with Dr. Silk directly, and I recommend that you do because this really is cutting edge in this field, then get in touch. Just drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, and we can get on a call and we can arrange something. But anyway, man, it's been great to chat as always, and
Thanks for having me.
We'll
Pleasure.
see you guys in the next video.
All right.